Раз, два, три. Hello, everyone. So I think we can start. We have 15 minutes before our official beginning of second xOps meetup. And we're going to discuss interesting things around org structures and team composition. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, I think we will wait for a couple of minutes when people will able to join. So I provided a couple links. I provide 3 links. So the first one is YouTube Live, where you can watch the YouTube session as well. And you can write all your comments or feedback or questions if you would like to ask them to the experts that will be on this call in 15 minutes. The second link is to our Figma file, where you will able to find all the things that we are discussing about. So today we are going to test more collaborative discussion rather than just a conference where speakers are sharing their slides. I will speak about that in a couple seconds, but most importantly, if you will able to join this Figma link, you will able to add your thoughts, your notes, like if you have any tools and add other things that you would like to share, please do that there. Also, you can ask your questions through Figma comments, so we will able to see all of your questions there as well. And the third link is to Zoom link, where you will able to join the session and ask your questions verbally here with us. So that will be really interesting to see everyone joining. Okay, let me start. Hi, Patricia.
Hey.
So right now we have this opening part where I will just share a couple of slides around like what is like xOps meetup is about and like what we are going to speak about today. So I'm really excited. So let me share my screen and we will go for that. 1 second, I'm sharing. So I hope everyone sees my screen, right? Okay, so let's start. So first of all, I wanted to share why exactly we wanted to discuss operations, why we wanted to gather all together today and discuss organizational structure and team compositions. So we'll start with the main question, why it's important to think about the operations right now. So when the organizations are growing, we saw like design design team, like through the whole time, we see that the complexity of design teams and the whole organization is growing, that we need, at some point, we need to hire more design managers, more design program managers, and etc. But within the time, we see that it's not enough. Just by focusing on the product is not enough. So that's why we need to think about the ways from operations perspective, which kind of tool, which kind of practices, which kind of peoples are involved during the product development in our organization. And we need to make sure that the knowledge sharing is done properly, that designers are growing, not only designers, but the whole but the whole organization as well. So we need to think about practices that helps us to do that. So that's why we were thinking about the way how, like, just focusing on the product and not investing in people leads to organization scalability issues. And we need to think about the way how people are interacting with each other. And that's why we are here today. So when we were thinking about the way how we could focus on operations, there's two sides of things. The first one is people, and the second one is product. And when we are speaking about the operations, it covers all the things, from organization scale to team to people, from portfolio of products to product and craft. And there are a lot of focus areas that we need to focus on. So that's why it's a huge topic. And I believe that will be interesting and will be important for us to gather and speak about that challenges, and also share cases, share practices, share tools, how other people was able to fix these issues. So the world is changing, and just making the right things are not enough. And speed and quality is the competitive advantage. So that's why operations are becoming more and more popular. We have design ops, product ops, DevOps, and etc. So I was really inspired by this picture when I saw that for the first time. And I understood that right now, as I mentioned before, just making the right things is not enough. So that's why we need to think about the way how we could make it more efficient and more fast. So there are a lot of disciplines that are involved during this process. But as you can see here, from each discipline, there are ops people, ops discipline that helps this team to make things more efficient. So let's go through the history and understand like what is the evolution of operations in time right now. It is based on the Google trend. So for early 20s, we had sales ops. That's the first thing, the first team that started to think about the way how we could make our sales more efficient. They started to build CRMs. They started to think about the way how people are working and interacting with the customers. So that's why they started to build such tools and practices that helps them to evolve and make their sales more efficient. Then we started to see DevOps that started to grow because they had a lot of people, but it was important to set up the process, to set up the workflow that will allow to unlock all the capabilities that people have and unlock their creativity and their performance on the projects by creating and setting the right workflows and the right processes. Then we see design ops. We have recently product ops becomes more and more popular again, because we see that just by hiring more product managers we are not able to provide more results, more value. So that's why we need to think about from operations perspective, how we could make these things more efficient. So right now we have a lot of ops today. So that's why this meetup is all about ops. It's about xOps, how we could connect design ops, how we could connect product ops, and how we could connect DevOps. As you can see here, because ops, design ops, product ops, etc., they started to grow from the discipline, but we wanted to gather all the people that are thinking and thinking about and working and about operations to have this another dimension of view and share the things, that will help us to grow, about the change management, about the knowledge management, about the communication, about the organizational structures and etc. So quickly, I will share about what is the community about. xOps is a community-driven platform with organized knowledge base with handpicked resources helping operation discipline to evolve and advance. If you will go to xops.today website, you will able to see I'm working on that. So the goal there is to gather all the tools, all the practices, all the articles, all the videos about specific things that will help ops to evolve and make their work more efficient. If you would like to contribute, please write me. You can find me on any social media as Faris Sabitov. If you would like to contribute, please do. We started to gather reports about about operations, tools, and etc. So we have a lot of things. We are just thinking about the way how we could visualize that on the website. So I hope soon we will be able to share that as well. So I wanted to share the previous formats that we had before. Again, so usually we were thinking about the way how we could implement operations into the way how we are doing these meetups as well. So usually the standard format is to have speaker presenting her or his slides, answering at the end we have Q&A session where people could answer and ask their questions as well. But we're thinking how we could make these events more efficient and more interesting. So that's why in our previous meetup, that xOps meetup, number one, like the first xOps meetup, we tried to use another format where we had these slides from the experts in just 10 minutes. So they had only 10 minutes to present their idea, and all the questions went to the open panel discussions where all the experts from design ops, product ops, DevOps could answer the same questions that people are asking about specific things to like product ops or design ops, but answered by different lenses of use. Like DevOps could share some of the things that they went past through already because they have more experience in that rather than product ops or design ops. So yeah, we had the first meetup. It was on the 25th of February. You can find the YouTube recordings. Unfortunately, it's in Russian. Today, we are going to do that in English, and we are going to test another new format that we would like to share as well. So if you are interested, go to this YouTube. Could you mute yourself, please? There are some, I can hear some noises on the background. Thank you. So, yeah, if you would like to watch our first meetup, you can go into the YouTube and find it there as well. So, but we were thinking about the way how we could make it more interesting because right now people are just can watch these sessions, presentations, and conferences afterwards, like right? Because like, and we were thinking about the way how we could make it more interactive. So today we are going to test something new. And you will be the first person like to try. I mean, to play with it. Please share your feedback if you have anything, because that will be really interesting for us to see how it will go and will this format will work or not. So today we wanted to have more like collaborative discussion and answer your questions if you have any questions during this meetup as well. So if you will have anything, please do that. All the experts that are right now on the call will able to share their slides about specific topic, and we will able to discuss them all together in Figma. If you will have any questions, anyone could answer them during this call. So it's somewhere in between Clubhouse, if you heard about this app, because they have really interesting approach of doing like people gatherings. I mean, how people can discuss and how can people open up some specific topics by just discussing that collaboratively. So we wanted to do the same here today and make it more collaborative. So we have a call in Zoom. I added the link into our Eventbrite page. So you will be able to join the session directly in Zoom with the experts and ask your questions here. The whole session is streamed to YouTube Live, where you can also write your questions if you have any. And the whole collaboration will be happening in Figma. So I will share a Figma link. Please go ahead. Also, you will be able to find this link on Eventbrite page. After registration, you must receive the link with Zoom, YouTube, and Figma. So please join here to our Figma file, because there we will be able to have these more collaborative discussions where experts will share some of their thoughts, some slides, and we will be able to discuss these things all together. So welcome to the second meetup about designing org structures, and let's meet our experts. The first expert is Patricia Vertini. Patricia, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Oh, well, welcome everyone. I'm Pat, don't bother with the Z. So I live in London. and I currently manage 7 globally distributed design teams for a global multinational company called Intuit. So absolutely chuffed to be here and learning from your questions.
That's great. Thank you, Pat. Yeah, and the next expert is Elena Drogobov. I'm not sure that he said that he will able to join in a couple minutes. So if he's not here, Ilya, if you are here, please unmute yourself. If not, we will continue. So, but Ilya Drogobov is director of product operations on Patentdog, and like we had previous session with him, xOps Meetup, the first xOps Meetup. So it was really interesting about the way how they did the knowledge management in their organization as well. So like if you would like to watch or like connect with Ilya, please feel free to do that. So today we're going to speak about the org structure, about different types of org structures, about some interesting case studies, about the different frameworks that maybe will inspire you to start thinking differently about the way how your organization is structured or how your team, like about like team composition, should you change it or is it working right now as it is for you? We will go through the organization growth and we will try to came up with some practices that will help you if you are here on this call, if you are thinking about the org structure or team compositions, that will help you with some practices and tools that are mapped to your evolution of time and maturity model as well. And at the end, we will speak about the maturity model in organizations as well. I prepared some draft notes, so it will be great to discuss with all of you today. So let's start. Okay. I will go to our Figma file. So please join to our Figma file because we have some interesting resources here as well.
Can you add the link in the chat, perhaps?
Yeah, for sure. 1 second. 1 second. Where's chat? Here it is. Okay, I think we can start. We have some people, right, on during this call. I hope our YouTube is working. So if you will have any questions, please ask them there as well. I will check them there. If you will have any questions, please ask them in Zoom. So let's start. So the first thing that I wanted to discuss, and let me change the view of our Zoom, is why do we need to think about the organizational structure? Patricia, what do you think? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I work in a massive multinational company. It's 10,000 and more employees. So I think that my question to your question, and I know you can't answer a question with a question, is, I mean, we are design ops. We are not the COO, the Chief Operation Officer, that actually operates at that level. So in my experience, bias by being in a large multinational company is I can't think about that. I can't go and say, hey, we need to change the titles. We need to add more layers and more levels. I mean, unless you work in a tiny startup where CDO, Chief Design Officer, Chief Design Operation Officer, and COO are the same. I mean, my personal experience is this is not design ops, this is operation.
Yeah, that's true. And I see that Elena Drogobov joined our call. Hi, Ilya.
Yeah, and hey guys, glad to see you here.
Ilya, sorry, can you please introduce yourself to the audience as well?
Yeah, my name is Ilya. I'm director of product operations in Patentdog company. So in product operations, I'm responsible for creating an environment for all of the product people to do their job better. That's mostly, and the topic of this like organizational structure is one of the most important, and for our companies and for my past experience in different companies. So I'd be glad to talk about this today with you guys.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Ilya. So Ilya, I was thinking, and Patricia, please also interrupt me and add your thoughts or like feedback as well. When we spoke about like communication, in large organizations, the answer, like we were thinking about, is there a tool, is there a practice that will help us to make our communications more efficient? Because like we have a lot of meetings in our calendar, but like we don't have enough time to work. I know like there are some interesting practices around like analyzing, creating communication plan and making sure that we have efficient meetings. And it's also about the discipline, etc. But one of the answers that we got from DevOps from our previous meeting was that you need to make sure that your organizational structure and team composition is done properly. So you will have less communication gaps. So I think one of the first things that we could add here is, why do we need to think about the team composition and the org structure, is make communication more efficient.
Yeah, totally agree.
I always answer with a question. I mean, that's a poor start on my end. But no, communication, it's how you define communication. What is the purpose of communication defines the needs and the opportunities to optimize. So I've been working on a project to kind of organize communication and improve. I mean, since we went working from home, there's been an increase in Slack messages, a decrease in mails, and a massive flourishing and blooming of Slack channels. And this red dot pointing at you every single time you look at Slack, your Slack icon is generating anxiety. But how are we using Slack? I mean, Slack is an instant messaging. Are we using it for the purpose it has been developed? Have you ever tried to find something on Slack, a document that someone sent you? So unless you clarify what is the purpose of communication, you can't define what is the right tool and approach. So I don't see it related. And I'm really interested to learn about this conversation you had where the team's structure and organization influence communication, because that's something I never thought of. So if you can share more, I'm keen to learn more.
Ilya, would you like to step in?
Yeah, I think that's really a great thing. That's the purpose of different communications, different communicational channels. We need to explicitly understand what are they and for what reasons. For example, yeah, for Slack. So we actually use it mostly for really synchronous communication, because we have like regular meetings on all of the key topics with all of the key groups of people. And Slack is really like when we're doing work, and when we're doing like not deep work, like personal, but we can just talk about something together and to come up with some fresh ideas, or like have really instant answer on some questions if the person is online. So for us, yeah, that's something that we use. But I know that for some people, even Slack is like asynchronous communication. So they have like rules, for example, that answer you can get just in 1 day or in 1 to 3 days. And it's also fine when you have these rules inside the team. But I think, yeah, that's up to the business and up to the org structure and up to your culture. How do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, like I have here like really old picture. I believe like it's not the same anymore, but here it's a good, I believe like it's a good answer to the question like why org structure could affect the communication. For example, like in this example, in this image, we can see that if some unit, some portfolio, some like group of like portfolio of products are working on specific things, for example, as you can see here, if the org structure is done in different way, it creates these communication gaps and sometimes conflict of interests. So that's why if we will be able to specify the right org structure, at least we will think about that, how we could do that. I believe like that could solve some of the issues, like political issues that might happen. So yeah, so that's one of the things that I'm thinking about. And another thing is about like making decisions, because if our org structure, again, we will cover that in a couple of seconds, because I have here like interesting case study, and I believe Ilya Drogobov will be able to share his presentation, or just add a couple slides here, or just like couple notes here. We will able to discuss that. But yeah, like I believe like that's the org structure could affect the communication, and it could affect the time how fast we could make the decisions. Because I saw in Spotify framework, for example, they are giving the responsibility to specific tribes, to specific teams to make decisions by their own, not to make, not micromanagement, but like make people more responsible for the product so they could make their own decisions. So we could evolve and go faster.
I love the simplification of the model. And although I can recognize something that works, I mean, my case, perhaps it's peculiar. It's 7 globally distributed teams: France, UK, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, Australia, India, you name it. But I'm curious if any one of the people that are in the call actually have experimented the advantages of these models in their day-to-day. Just because, I mean, we say this is an experimental format, it's open. So again, I keep answering your questions with questions, but anyone that wants to share how is their world, what is happening in their world? I guess this is a no.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe someone from the call can.
Ilya, I believe we can start with your slides or your notes. If you could share your screen.
Yeah, let me just, could you please quickly send me the link to this board?
Yeah, 1 second. So it is in the chat. Can you see it? I hope you can see it.
Yep. Yeah, can you see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So this is something that, yeah, let me just quickly, because we have experimental format. Yeah, I need to explore everything during the process. I like the way, like my experience of working with different organizational structures is related to different sizes of the companies. And in like smaller companies, we had much more ways to create different styles of communication, different styles of organizational structure. So from the full flat to like very vertical, even in the small companies. And that's I think like the most interesting part for me was that sometimes in like a very vertical small company, it was a very healthy culture in comparison with super flat, when people started like to fight between each other because like they all are responsible for everything. And even when we are trying to create some specific rules, like make them more like for modern frameworks, spiral dynamics and all of that stuff, still like for people, it's like very big mental change in how to approach the work if they don't have the boss and his boss don't have another boss. And that's, I think, like one of the most interesting experience that I had. I think like talking about your pictures, there are like some companies that I think even are not listed here, but it is like very really like very flat. And talking about like teal organizations, they have this notion of let me just quickly draw that. It's not like I'm very familiar with Figma, but I'll try to.
You can make it like, yeah.
So this like a circles, and in circle, people can really define who are these people inside. They don't have specific like roles like manager or not manager, but they can take these roles for some specific projects. For example, on this project, this person could be like more responsible for the overall project, but this not. At this next project, at the same amount of people, they are changing. And that's very interesting approach. But at the same time, this combination is much more dependent on specific people. Are they ready for this or not? And yeah, maybe you can just step in here and to discuss this part. So how do you think, what do we need to expect from people to make them ready to work without the like one boss that rule them all?
If I can kind of launch a provocation, I mean, each of these models serve a specific purpose. Not all companies and organizations are created equals. So you can clearly see a Google model, which is decentralized compared to other centralized models. And they exist for a purpose because organizations operate and have different cultures and different ways of working. So there's a really interesting model that I think can help us to kind of reflect on what is the model and what influences the model. Is the operation that influences the model, or it's the organization culture? So if I can quickly share, I just quickly Googled one model. Okay. It's called, I can't share though. It's called OK, or Competing Value Framework. And basically looks at the organization's culture from 2 points of view. So this is a study that has been done in academia in the late 90s. So it's not something new. It's something that's been around for a while. It's something consolidated. And it's something that it's really interesting, and somehow I keep sharing.
I think you can now.
Yes, now I can. So if you look at this model, what this model basically organizes the organizations and the structure, it's on 2 axes. The first one is how flexible and discrete is and how stable or controlling the organization is. So is the organization capable of adapting? Is it all about moving fast, or it's more about controlling? It's more about stabilizing the order and ensuring order is maintained. The other axis, it's the focus. Is the organization focused internally on the team, on the processes, or it's externally focused on innovation, focused on bringing in external influences? Now, leave aside the names, which doesn't really mean anything unless you read everything. But what it matters, it's in a flexible and open environment, you will have exactly the Google model. The companies that are focused on innovation, on driving, experimenting, failing fast. So to be able to fail fast, you need a very flexible model. If you go in the opposite, so this kind of hierarchical, where it's all about control and internal control, you will have the other extremes, the military. You will have organizations that actually operate with the extreme clustered approach you have. So these all just to share that actually it's all about what purpose the organizations serve. So again, my question is, what is the purpose of your organization, and what is the purpose of communication within that organization?
Wow. Personally, I really like that. And I also added the couple notes into our Figma. So other people could join and just like discuss here as well. But Pat, thank you very much. Like, did I understood you right that we need to adjust our organizational structure based on like, so for example, on the left side, we will have more like legal companies, finance companies, where like the cost of error is too high. And that's why they need to have the strict rules, strict organization. And on the right side, it's more about like creative companies. I don't know if they are building something new technology or some new hardware.
So let's explore also the other one. So if they are on the flexibility, on the high, so they are all about change and rapid experimentation. So if you think about type of flexible organization that it's inward looking, you will find the creative studios. You will have architectural practices, all these kind of practices where there is this family environment, family type of environment. So it's all about changing, experimenting. So it's small in size generally, and it's all about flexibility and taking care of people more than market results. The market-driven company, which is the one on the last quadrant we haven't explored, that it's outward looking. They're looking at the market, but they are also controlling. Those are all the companies that actually focus on marketing, sales, revenue. Those are the sales-driven companies, and it could be any sector. So one interesting exercise is to literally measure, and you can measure it. So it's called OCAI, OCAI test. And you can measure your culture, both your present culture and your aspirational culture. And a really interesting experiment, and I'm just thinking now that I thought that I could do that, is to match that with the communication and interaction. And at that point, I totally see how what you were saying about the organization structure influencing the communication, because the organizational structure is influenced by the culture. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And one more interesting thing here, because like talking about very stable and like full of control areas like legal, like finance, now we see kind of some interesting transformations into the world. For example, when banking like becoming more like client-faced, more like, I don't know, more connected with the freedom, more like hidden services. And when like people just use this without like all of that bureaucracy stuff. And that's also about, I think, in the change of their inner structure of the organization. They need to change inside in order to make some very like innovative approaches for the future, like even if they are banks or finance or legal stuff by the nature. And that's like very nice how you can maybe think about your organization, even if you're already like very strict and like control driven. How can you change your future by changing approaches into your organization, but do not change your business level? And that's I think one of the ways how to think about this.
I absolutely love your point, Ilya, because we are going through a massive transformation. If you think about insurtech, fintech, edutech,
Yeah.
You can put tech after anything, and there's a market for that. So it's already happening. It's a transformation that it's needed, required, and COVID probably is also accelerating some aspect of it. But yes, I love where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So I added here also a couple interesting thoughts about that maybe that kind of thoughts could unlock some other ideas that we might have. So if we are speaking about different structures, like there is formal structure when the power is hierarchy or power of positions. And like this is, I believe, more on the left quadrant, as we mentioned here, as Pat shared with us. The next one is informal structure, where we are trying to go like on the flat. And I really like the idea of like from Ilya that it's based on the maturity of like people. Do they need some managers on top of them, or they can focus on their work by themselves? It's also about the organizational culture as well. And the last one is becoming more and more popular. I hear it more and more. Is value creation structure, when the power is on reputation or power of those with knowledge. So it's not about the managing. And I also like the latest, like one of the articles from HBR around the way how managers are also changing. It's more not about the managing people, but it's more about coaching people and creating an environment for them to grow. Not like we don't need to make sure that people are tracking their tasks in Jira anymore. I mean, like right now we have metrics. We have like every company have these data informed approaches where they could see eventually if someone is not working. There is OKRs that helps us to connect strategy with the implementation as well. So Yeah, I would like to hear your thoughts if anyone have anything to share at this point.
Yeah, I think that you've mentioned now is really valid, and mostly about working in like some creative task. For example, like SaaS B2B IT companies, like most of them are like a lot of freedom there, and a lot of this like social relationship, and without huge controlling. But I'm still thinking when we have like modern IT businesses, for example, but they have like very operational part of the businesses in real world, for example, delivery. You cannot do just a lot of freedom in delivery. You need to calculate everything. When you're working with people, you can just coach them. You really need to have very strong KPIs for them. And like they, like by the nature, they are not very like professionally qualified people. Mostly it's like they're like first, like second, third year of the work. That's like their start. So that's why, like, even if you have very like at the back end, very nice and open team of like IT engineers and product managers and other people, you can have in the same business very different department, and somehow you in one culture all of that stuff. I know like such companies in the area that I was working on. So yeah, like very huge businesses with very strong IT departments that are very modern, but at the same time like very strict and very control like operational part of the business is connected with like delivery or like some services in the real world. That's the reality. I see the question.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up, but go.
Yeah, cool question from Mateus. Do you think org should be based on the existing culture, or should org reflect an evolution or a desired culture? Maybe Patricia, do you have thoughts on that?
I wanted to take this because can I quickly share my screen again?
Yeah, for sure.
Out of this competing value framework, they have developed a testing approach. It's called OCAI, so Kai. You can just Google it and you find everything. And how does this assessment work? It's 6 questions you submit to everyone in your organization. And you basically have to attribute 100 points on 6 dimensions that help you to assess where your organization is. Now, everyone is required in the organization to do this twice. Why? One is to take the picture where people think they are today. So can't remember if it's the pink or the blue one, but let's assume that the pink is where they are. So people feel that they're market orienting, there's a strong hierarchical component, and the innovative capacity is undervalued. And then you run the same assessment, same test, again, 6 questions, how you would like your organization to be. Because this is something that needs to be managed and thought collaboratively. I mean, a culture is not a decision of anyone. Driving change is not someone that you can push from the top to the bottom. It's a participative approach. So it means that you need to understand how people in your organization feel about the culture and understand how and where do they want to go and start planning the actions accordingly. So I don't know if this answers your question, but this is literally the approach to change, modify, and evolve the culture of your organization to make sure that you bring on board everyone. So I see also.
Yeah, there's another question from Lala Galindo. Lala, if you would like to unmute yourself and just ask it verbally.
Hi, Lala.
Hey.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Patricia. Yeah, my question was, in your experience, what are the top pros and cons in informal structure? I'm more familiar with the formal one, so I want to know your experience. And 2, which structure do you consider to be more successful?
I don't know, I can start and then I give it to Ilya. Again, every structure serves a purpose. You can't have an informal structure in a military. Guess what could happen? At the same time, you can't have a military structure at Google or Apple. As simple as that. So the pros and cons really depend how the culture fits the purpose of the organization. If it doesn't serve the purpose, if it doesn't empower people to do their job, if it doesn't help the organization to achieve the goals, that's the wrong structure. So this is why it's really important that every organization really think about what is the purpose, what is the, you remember every organization talks about mission, vision. Those are very powerful statements that most of the time are repeated without really thinking of, but they need to match and they guide the organizational structure. So unless there's a strong mismatch between an organization that declares we are an innovation driven and we want to change the life of our customers, our mission is to revolutionize whatever market, and the organization is military, there's a problem. You need to find and kind of adjust. So that's in my experience. Every structure, it's perfect if it serves the right purpose.
Yeah, I agree. My just 5 cents about pros. I think that in informal structure, we are not only like workers, we are not only roles. Here, we are mostly people, and we approach to each other, and we are working together as a people, as a like with our like, I don't know, positive sides, negative sides. We can share, we can be open, and that's I think the very good pros of informal structure, because we are like very open to each other and more creative, and this like creating this atmosphere of innovations is, I think, much easier when people are open to each other. That's, I think, this. But when I'm talking about the pros, of course, yeah, if you're doing military, as Patricia said, yeah, you can do this informal. But there is, I think, one more like cons thing. That it's much harder to find people in informal structure that is very close to your culture, because like in informal structure we are starting talking about our personal culture. In like very strict culture, like I think they are kind of the same from company to company. So that's, I think, yeah, that's about our ability to find people that are very close to us when we are very open and informal. And yeah, about like what is more successful, it really depends on the business and the purpose. So yeah, all of them could be successful, but need to understand what's better for what.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, like, if we are speaking about the value creation structure, it's more around, like, it's more informal, but it's more competitive as well. Because if you have clear goals, clear objectives with clear key results, and everything is open, everyone can do it if they know how to do that. And there is no approval flows from like your boss, from your boss's boss, and etc. So this value creation structure is more also like one of the pros, and maybe for some people it's cons. It's like competitive environment inside the organization. That's just my thoughts as well. Another thing that I want to share today is I wanted to go through like one of the cases that Deliveroo shared. It's interesting story about the way how from startup they became a really large organization, and through this evolution in time they saw a couple mistakes and they changed them based on like different organizational structure. So the story is about the way how design team evolved, and because design team knew how to hire people for design positions, how to grow designers, and etc., the organizational structure started to grow from discipline, not by the product. And this head of CRD, as you can see here, content design, product design, user research, they were focusing on different products. So that's why when you are focusing on different products, but there is no, how to say, connection between all of that, it's hard to contribute to the product, to clarify some of the questions, to move fast. So the way how they did that is that they started to divide every section, every teams into each portfolios into specific domains, like consumer facing, growth, restaurant, and delivery. And they, in their organizational structure, they added another level, like more like metrics based, like there's like two coordinates when they were focusing on the domain and also on the discipline that could help them not only to focus and make decisions fast on their specific products and connect people that are working on the same domain, but also evolve and grow the design discipline as well, because they had another connection with all the people around. So they were able to share the knowledge about the design discipline, and they were able to share the knowledge between each other about the domain as well. Here, I wanted to show the organizational growth timeline, but again, I'm open for your feedback, for your thoughts here as well. So we are starting with a startup. Like if we're speaking about the organizational growth, we are starting with startups, startup where we are just gathering people who are willing to participate. We are hiring people just to cover the main needs. Then when we're releasing the product and we see that we have success and we have our ROI is high enough to start hiring more and more people, it becomes a product company where we are separating people into different teams, like growth team, product team, legal team, and etc. Some of the positions could be outsourced, for example, like legal, because we just have one product, for example, so that we don't need to spend a lot of money on that. The next phase is product organizations, when we have more than 2 products. And that's the story case that I shared before about the Deliveroo is applying here. They are somewhere here where they are starting to see that they have couple product teams and they are starting to group them as domains and etc. And the last one is the enterprise organizations with a lot of products and teams inside different portfolios, streams, and etc. Yeah, Ilya, you wanted to add something?
No, like the only thing that is very different from this picture, because when we're talking about product organizations and like focused on really very deep understanding of what product is, this ability to grow by creating small product businesses inside one big product business, that's really great. And what I see very different when I had experience of consulting some service companies, big service companies, or companies that are focusing not on just product but operational businesses. They have quite really very different organizational structure, just because they don't have 1, 2, or 3 products. They can have very big amount of little products that can start with just project, then somehow be the product, then it could be initiative, and all of the things are interconnected between each other, and they have kind of like Google, many-to-many connections. And we can treat them as product companies, but at the same time they have this challenge how to grow, because they cannot create this pieces into pieces, make them very similar to what we have on a big scale, have a small scale. For example, in PandaDoc, we are absolutely product company, and while we are growing, we are creating kind of small businesses that are just as the big business, but small product inside the product. And that's how we can scale, I think, up to maybe 5,000 people, because even if we are enterprise, we still can represent this picture. But yeah, when we're talking about different types of companies, that's interesting how different the org structure would be, because you cannot just recreate the same big picture into the small departments. You need to think about how to connect all of these pieces together with all of the cross coordination. And that's I think huge topic. Maybe someone from this scholar, maybe you, Patricia, have this experience of working with big but very cross-connected companies.
Big, yes. Cross-connected, maybe. That's because I can't say no. But yeah, I mean, a growth model, it's a model. So it says a story that's an archetype. And then we have the zillion variation on the top of that. So I'm totally agreeing with what you are saying, Ilya. However, what I see is you reach to a point where enterprise, it's a universe. And as much as it would be amazing to have knowledge sharing, interconnectivity, and the ability to scale to a certain level, there's so much you can do. So, I mean, if I just look into it, I mean, in international, keeping track of 7 globally distributed teams, it's way easier than understanding what's happening in one team in the US. So it's not distance, it's not geography, it's just the complexity of the relationship and how those relationships are being framed. So the big problem in a lot of corporations and enterprises is kind of losing sight of the detail. And sometimes you are in the detail group. And when you are not the core product, and you are just in a startup phase, so it's kind of having the big corporation on one side and a lot of little startups that are trying to find their way, leaning into the big one, sometimes getting a lot of help, which is invaluable, and sometimes you need to find your way because you're in a different environment, in a different context, and the product that you are delivering, although is built on the same type of base, it still has nuances that can be replicated outside the market. So I totally love the simplification, and I would love life to be that simple. But at a certain point, you totally lose that also, because you may start only with small product and you can multiply. So I mean, +1 to all you said there, Ilya. I second what you said. If there's anyone in the call, I mean, we are a nice sized group, so anyone willing to share their experience.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I added a couple interesting notes from our discussion that ability to scale is important when we are designing the org structure. Cross-connected teams are also important. It's important to think about the knowledge sharing as well, because it's not about like making fast decisions and improving the communication, but it's also about the knowledge sharing that like I forgot to add a note here. I was just thinking about the different ways, like the structuring types. Here I just like presented a couple that I was thinking of, and please add your thoughts as well on top of that. There is market-based structuring, product-based structuring, and geography-based structuring. So for example, if we are working in the same country, it's easier for us to have a specific unit connected to by the geography, structured by geography. In some cases, we are structured by market or product. That's another ways maybe that could inspire other listeners to think about like the same things in different ways. And if we are speaking about a large organization, I know like Patricia, you're working on Intuit, it's a really large organization. I'm working in Japan, we have more than 40,000 employees. Like, do you have the same approach, like having these different tracks, like A track, B track, C track? C track is more like for executives, B track for management. Do you have same approach?
So when you say track, it's basically the levels. It's again organizational lingo, so we don't use track. So yeah, I mean, you have individual contributors, you have managers, you will have directors, VP, SVP, and so forth. So yes, it's there, and I think it's one of the most exciting areas that a lot of people should be looking at. I'm not talking about Intuit necessarily in this case, but it's an area that has been suffering a lot from the transformation and the speed of change that we have seen, and how the job market is doing and going. So it's a really interesting space because people want to grow and they want to change track and they want to change and explore opportunities. but how do you keep people motivated and moving across the track? How you find what is the right track for everyone? Is everyone a manager? Is everyone suited for director, SVP level?
Yeah, I think we know a topic for the next meetup, because that's really huge. All of the educational and growth stuff, that's really super interesting, but it's really like a lot of different things. So yeah, you can just make a notion here. Yeah, I think that's really up to company to make it very transparent for everyone. So which tracks or levels do we have, or it is like somewhere in the shadow, but still like all of the companies has this like levels, and the way how people are growing is very important, because it could be very clear for everyone. So you have like career paths from this position. In 1 year you can be this, in 1 year this. For some companies it's like very big unknown. How can I grow? That's for sure.
And it's the biggest cause of churn. I mean, we know if you look at whatever statistics in, just Google it, calls for leaving a company. Most of the time it's because you're not feeling you're growing, you're not getting promoted because there are no enough levels, or because you don't know where to go, or because you just hit the roof on your track. So the implication and the operational cost of having people leaving an organization and lack of clarity over the tracks, it's massive. It's every person that leaves causes 6 months worth of underperformance and low productivity. Because I mean, if you just think that, let's say you resign today and you have 1 month notice, give or take, it's an average. So for that month, you know that you won't really engaging a lot, so it will be just handing over what you did, and 1 month is done. Then I mean, if an organization is lucky, they may find someone in 1 or 2 months, but perhaps they need to, let's say 1 month, but perhaps they need to wait out the time for the new employee to join. So that's 3 months and you hadn't had work done. The new employee starts the month number 1, he will be probably 25% of the total productivity. Second month, 50, 60. Third month, probably, and it's 6 months since you resigned, probably a 70, 80%. So by the 7th month, you can expect to get back to 100% productivity. So the costs are massive. So I know I'm passionate about this topic, so I stopped here because I could.
we really can create
exactly.
One more meetup on this. I am really passionate too. Yeah, one more thing for it, like at the right top corner. Yeah, this is like Bruce Tuckman model. I really like this, and that's about this way of how we're growing as a company and going from one organizational structure to another. This is very like hidden costs, but I think that's very important to understand that when you're changing something in your like team and in organizational structure, first of all, you will definitely get this storming part of your effectiveness. So you just need to come up with this. It could be like from some weeks to some months. Yeah, and then you can again start being normal, and after that you can be performing. And I know that some people are like really, they forget about this and they think that, okay, we'll do the change and this change is like awesome, and after we do this change everything would be super. But no, like even if the change is right, like very, very right from all of the reasons, you still will have this downside of this. So I think, yeah, this is about change management.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, yeah, that's a big topic as well. I was thinking about like changing the tool set, and I was thinking about the time that we could spend, and I was thinking about the metrics that we could present. Like there is onboarding time for new practice or a new tool. There is migration time. If you are like switching from one tool to another, you need to move all your knowledge, all your files to another tool, or etc. Onboarding, migration, and adaptation. How much time adapting such new practice or tool will also take time.
Yeah, people need to adapt. That's for sure. Like at least they need to recreate the connection inside the company. So when you're changing something structural, like sometimes you are starting working with very different people, and you need to like recreate all of your personal connections with them, then work relations, and after that you can do your job. And that's
but adaptation and change doesn't happen out of magic. It's not something that sometimes happen and sometimes no. It depends on your good luck. Change management, it's a skill, and adaptation is a choice. You either break or stay. So it's really not, it's really binary. So I mean, change management means that change is participative in nature. So whatever changes, tools, we were mentioning tools, Farid, you want to change a tool. I mean, if you try to impose a new tool on the team, good luck with that. You will have a lot of people using whatever they want because, hey, who are you, design ops, telling me, the designer with a capital D, which tools do I need to use? I mean, that's not up for conversation. That's not up for discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, design operation, it's an enabler. And change management, it's the strongest weapon we can have to drive those efficiencies and to bring everyone along. You can cut dramatically the times required to onboard, train, and make people by managing the change. And I can tell you the example because last year when I was running an assessment of the teams, every single individual I was talking to, from the content designer to the visual designer, everyone wanted Figma. There was massive request. We want to use Figma because it will help collaboration, blah, blah, blah. So when the request comes from the bottom and you are able to fulfill that request, you will have people spending time learning, attending the training, asking for the training. So it's not the push, it's the pull approach because you are giving them something that they want. And of course, to be able to do that, there's a lot of collaboration to craft the story for the business, to make sure that actually you can sell the story to the business, you can create the business case, you can prove the value, and you can go back and get the change they wanted done for them. So you cut everything if you manage the change. Think what would have happened if I will just send an email, everyone, hey, lovely people, from tomorrow we won't have InVision, Zeppelin, and Sketch, and you name it, but we are all on Figma. I mean, you will have massive resistance, people hating you and telling who are you to decide why and how do I need to work. So that's the big difference in adaptation, because adaptation doesn't exist, it's a choice. So it's deciding to embrace change or opposing and leaving.
Yeah, I totally agree. And at the same time, I think everyone needs at least one time in their professional life try to do this change, like, hey guys, we are switching tomorrow. So then you can really feel how it is rejected from everyone on the topic. And that's why, like, why I think people become more superior in change management topic.
Yeah, and I have an example also about that, because one day the US, we are the kind of dependent on some decisions from the US, decided that they didn't want to pay for mural licenses. So we had this case that became famous internally as Muralgate, where someone leaked the information that mural may be dismissed and deprecated. So within hours, all my teams, 7 teams globally, went in panic mode. And what could we do? I mean, of course, they were angry and disappointed, etc. So manage the change. So answer a survey, give me data, let's go in the analytics, let's build a business case so that we keep mural. And that was what happened. If we had just let someone that doesn't have visibility over ways of working make that decision. I mean, the level of anger and frustration that came across or every single Slack interaction in that few hours. Yes, everyone needs to try that.
Yeah.
To learn about change
Mm.
management.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I totally get it because I had the same case as well. Like I was introduced to a new team. Like, yeah, I had this. But like the most interesting thing is better to change when people are asking for change. If they have some problems, issues with their current processes and practices, like like that's the time when this change could happen. Yeah, but it's also about like motivating and engaging others. I think I also want to add here in this level of organizational growth that it's really important to think about competency metrics and skill metrics to make sure that your organizational growth matches the growth career growth plans. So if people, for example, if we are introducing new tool or new practice, for example, it should be added to the growth plan for others, like in skill metrics, so they will be more engaged and more interested to learn more because of that they will able to get promotion, for example. Okay, another thing that I want to go through is so everyone who is on the call, please, you can watch in Figma. There are a lot of interesting tools and like links if you are interested in this topic that would be helpful. Another thing is the Spotify model. I had a couple thoughts about that. I wanted to go through the tools. One of them, like that I found recently, is the org. It's about like it's like open source knowledge base to see which like organizational structures other big large companies have. So you could be also like if you're analyzing like best ways, you could like find some interesting ideas from there as well. And they have really interesting blog about the organizational structure, about the team compositions as well. So I added a couple links here as well. Here I wanted to discuss we have only 5 minutes left, so maybe let's give a time for participants to ask their questions and we could answer them right now. If you would like to ask your questions, please unmute yourself. We would love to answer.
But also feedback. I mean, how are you finding this format?
That's true. That's true. Pat, let's start with you. Like what kind of feedback will you get like to this new format that we are testing today?
My feedback would be I know I'm gonna be unpopular, but I'm not a Figma fan. So I always mess up things. So apart from the Figma side, and I probably need to improve how to switch between looking at the screen and Figma. I think it has a massive potential if we all start sharing and we literally co-create. I mean, there's been a lot of new content added and new connections, which is really good food for thought. And I mean, we can even start next time from this one and keep building a massive, very massive interconnected wall of thought. So I think it's fun. I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also agree that this idea of co-creation together, that's something new. So it's not just talk, it's not just a presentation, and like it's maybe not so natural. So I feel really like, okay, what should I do now? Look at the screen or like jump into the Figma or copy paste some things. Yeah. But yeah, I think this is something that we can just improve how we collaborate on that. And that's a huge potential of how we can like create the information from nowhere by just talking, sharing. And that's, yeah, thanks for it for making this such new but interesting approach.
Thank you. And we have Lala, if you would like to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I had a question. When you go in, from your experience again, when you go into a new organization and you realize there's no structure to the team, like what's the first thing you do?
I can go if you want. I'm going to experience that in a few weeks. So the first thing that I will be doing is literally talking, gaining trust, positioning myself at the right level to make sure that people knows who I am, why I'm there, what is my role, and then gaining as much as information as possible. So exploring. So it will be survey, it will be interviews, it may be co-creation session. So explore what are the strengths and the opportunities of the teams. Explore how design is positioned within the organization. Explore what is the perceived value of design for the whole organization and what is the perceived value for the design teams, and then start from there to define what is design ops roadmap.
Yeah, as for me, I think kind of the same. One more thing that I'm usually do, and it's like for organizational structure or for like other understanding of how product work, for example, I'm like trying to build the picture as it is. So if it's organizational structure, you can try to build all of the super small detailed but very like realistical picture of the organizational structure, and then try to find this like red places that are like very problematic with a lot of issues that could be just for like specific people or their positions or the like communication between each other, or like some people can be burned out, and yeah, that's something that you need to pay attention. But first of all, yeah, just to draw a picture that is a lot of answers would be after this exercise.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, we have just 1 minute left, so thank you all for attending this meetup. We were testing, we were trying to like try new approaches. Yeah, so the recording of the session will be available soon, but I will give this recording to experts first for review, and then we will publish that to YouTube with this Figma file, so others could like benefit from it and learn. So we could motivate and like engage and share the knowledge between all of us, because operations is something new right now, and everyone is like on this standardizing phase where we are trying to keep up with the practices based on the maturity model, based on the where the specific team or organization is currently is. So thank you all for attending this meetup. I hope it was exciting and inspiring for you, so, and valuable as well. Thank you all. Have a great day. We will start another session, I believe, in 2 weeks, and we will speak about communication. So please make sure to follow Meetup on Eventbrite, so you will get notifications about the new events. Thank you for attending. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for it, for organization.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.